The monster's shadow. The village was silent when the sun went down. Shadows stretched long across the broken walls and empty streets. People closed their doors early, locking them tight. They whispered the same name in fear every night. They whispered about her. They said she was a monster. They said her skin was cursed, her eyes were fire, and her claws could cut stone. Children were warned never to wander near the forest, because that was where she lived. Men told stories of her standing on the hills at midnight, her silhouette glowing against the stars. Women prayed for protection whenever they heard the strange sound of her voice in the distance. But no one really knew her. No one dared to get close enough. Tonight, the soldiers came. Their boots struck the ground like thunder. Torches lit up the village square. People gathered, trembling, holding each other. Everyone knew what this meant. They were hunting her again. The captain raised his sword high and shouted, "Tonight we end a monster." His voice echoed through the night. The villagers cheered, but their eyes were full of fear, not courage. They wanted her gone, yes, but they also feared what would happen if the soldiers failed. From the edge of the square, a figure stepped into the light. Her skin shimmered dark blue under the flames. Her eyes glowed like moons. Her long black hair fell around her shoulders, wild and untamed. She was tall, strong, and graceful, and yet every person stepped back the moment they saw her. The monster had come. Children screamed. Women pulled them behind doors. Men raised weapons, though their hands shook. The soldiers moved forward in a circle, ready to trap her. But she did not attack. She did not roar or lash out. Instead, she stood very still. Her expression was calm, almost sad. She raised her hand, but not to strike. Her fingers trembled, as if she wanted to speak, but could not find the words. The crowd shouted louder. "Beast! Demon! Kill her!" Their voices filled the night like fire, burning away all silence. And then something happened. From the crowd, a young human soldier stepped forward. His armor was scratched, his sword was drawn, but his eyes held no hate. He looked at her differently than the others. While the other soldiers shouted and cursed, this one whispered, almost too soft to hear, "She's not what you think." The people gasped. Was he mad? Was he blind? The captain barked, "Hold your ground. She will kill us all." But the young soldier did not move back. Instead, he lowered his sword. Step by step, he walked closer to her. The flames flickered in his eyes, but there was no fear there. Only something else, something no one else dared to show. Compassion. The monster tilted her head, confused. Her eyes, glowing like silver fire, narrowed at him. She waited for the strike that never came. The crowd held their breath. Every heart beat fast. Would he die? Would she tear him apart? The soldier stopped just a few steps away from her. He dropped his sword to the ground. The steel rang like a bell on the stone floor. The sound echoed, cutting through the shouting voices. For the first time in many years, she did not hear hate. She did not hear screams. She heard silence. And then his voice, steady and calm. "You're not a monster. I can see it in your eyes." Her breath caught. Her claws trembled. No one had ever spoken to her like that. No one had ever looked past the fear. The soldiers shouted at him, ordering him to move back, but he stood tall. The villagers whispered, shocked and afraid. And the so-called monster? She lowered her hand. For the first time, she looked less like a creature of nightmares and more like a broken soul, waiting for someone to believe in her. Her lips parted. Her voice, soft and trembling, carried across the square. "Why do you not fear me?" The young soldier's answer was simple. "Because I see your pain, not your claws." The torches flickered. The crowd stared. The monster's shadow stretched long across the ground, but in that moment, the world saw something else. Not a beast, not a demon, a lonely angel hidden beneath fear. And that was the night everything began to change. The night was heavy with silence after his words. No one moved. No one even breathed. The young soldier's sword still lay on the stone ground, glinting in the firelight. He had lowered his weapon, but in doing so, he had raised something far stronger, hope. The monster, still standing in the circle of torches, tilted her head. Her glowing eyes were locked on him. No one had ever dared to step so close. No one had ever dared to speak with kindness. The captain's voice broke the silence. "Step back, fool. She will strike you down." But the young soldier did not move. His boots remained planted on the ground. His face was calm, though sweat glistened on his skin. His voice was steady, as if he had decided something inside his heart that no one else could shake. "She is not attacking," he said firmly. "Can you not see? She stands here, surrounded by us all, but she has not harmed anyone." The crowd murmured, unsure. Some still shouted, "Monster! Beast!" But their voices were weaker now, uncertain. The woman they called a monster lowered her hand slowly. Her claws were still sharp, her presence still terrifying, but something in her body language had shifted. She was no longer a predator cornered in the light. She was something else, someone caught between fear and hope. Her voice, low and trembling, carried across the square. "Why do you not fear me? All others run. All others hate." The soldier took one step closer. His eyes did not leave hers. "Because I see more than what they tell me. I see the truth." The crowd gasped. The captain roared with anger. "Seize him. He has lost his mind." But before the other soldiers could move, the monster's gaze hardened. She shifted slightly, and though she did not strike, her presence was enough to make even trained warriors freeze. The air around her shimmered with power. The soldier lifted a hand, not in fear but in peace. "Don't," he whispered to her. "If you fight, they will never believe you." Her breathing slowed. Her eyes softened. It was as if his words reached a place deep inside her that had been silent for years. The captain snarled and raised his weapon. "Stand aside, boy. She dies tonight." But the soldier stepped in front of her, his arms spread wide. "No," he said firmly. "Not while I live." The entire square erupted into chaos. Some villagers cried out, demanding the soldier's punishment. Others whispered in confusion, torn between fear and curiosity. For the first time, the image of the monster had cracked. For the first time, doubt had entered their hearts. The monster stared at the human who shielded her. She had seen warriors fight for honor, kings fight for power, and armies fight for conquest. But never in her long and lonely years, had someone stood for her. Something stirred inside her chest, something she had nearly forgotten. It was not rage, nor grief, nor hunger. It was something far more dangerous. Hope. The soldier turned slightly, his voice low, meant only for her. "If you trust me, follow me. Do not harm them. Just follow me." For a long moment, she said nothing. The firelight flickered against her blue skin, casting strange shadows on her face. The crowd leaned forward, waiting, trembling, afraid. And then, softly, she whispered, "I will follow." The captain cursed and signaled the men to advance, but before they could surround her, the soldier grabbed her hand. The crowd gasped at the sight, a human touching the monster. Her claws could have torn him apart, but instead she allowed it. She let him guide her. Together, they broke through the ring of soldiers. Torches fell. Shouts filled the air. But the villagers did not chase them. They were too stunned by what they had seen. The human and the monster disappeared into the night. They walked until the village was far behind them, until the stars were the only witnesses. She finally pulled her hand free and looked at him with confusion. "Why risk your life for me?" she asked. "Your people will hate you now. They will call you traitor." The soldier nodded. "They already whisper it. But I do not care, because I saw something tonight that no one else dared to see." She frowned. "And what is that?" His answer was simple, but his voice carried the weight of truth. "I saw that you are not a monster. You're something more." For a moment, the night was silent again. The stars shone bright above them. She looked away, fighting the strange feeling rising in her chest. No one had ever spoken to her like that. No one had ever looked past her claws, her skin, her cursed reputation. But this human had, and it was in that moment, under the silent sky, that the first fragile thread of trust was woven between them. It was the start of something that would change not only their lives, but the fate of worlds. The forest was alive with whispers. Leaves rustled under the cool night breeze, and the moonlight spilled through the branches like silver fire. The young soldier moved carefully, his eyes sharp, his ears listening for every sound. Behind him, she walked, silent, graceful, and watchful. Her glowing eyes scanned the shadows, but she did not look at him. They had escaped the village, but not the danger. Soldiers would hunt them. The villagers would spread fear with every word. And still, the soldier stayed by her side. At last, they reached a clearing where the stars burned bright. The monster, no, the woman they had called a monster, sat on a stone, her shoulders heavy with exhaustion. She looked less like a beast here. In the quiet of the forest, away from screaming voices, she looked like something else. She looked human. The soldier did not speak at first. He built a small fire, his movements slow, cautious, but without fear. She watched him with narrowed eyes, as if trying to understand why he had not abandoned her. Finally, she broke the silence. Why follow me? You could have returned. You could have left me for them to kill. The soldier glanced at her. I wanted to see the truth with my own eyes. Her claws tapped against the stone, her voice low. And what truth do you see? He hesitated, then answered softly, that you are not what they say. Not a demon, not a beast, just different. She looked away. A bitter laugh escaped her lips. Different is enough for them to hate. Different is enough for them to chain and curse. The firelight revealed scars across her arms, faint but real. Old wounds, battles fought long ago. The soldier noticed, but did not ask. Instead, he waited. Her voice grew softer, almost like a confession. They call me monster because it is easier than knowing the truth. I was not born to kill. I was not born to destroy. I was born to guard. The soldier frowned. Guard what? Her glowing eyes lifted to the stars. This world, these people. Long ago, my kind came from the stars. We swore to protect, but fear twisted their hearts. They saw claws, not hands. They saw power, not purpose. So they drove us away. I remained, bound by promise. But to them, I became a curse. The soldier's breath caught. He understood now. She was not a predator, but a protector. Her exile was not because of crimes, but because of fear. He spoke gently. So you stayed alone all this time? She nodded once. Alone is safer. Alone means fewer chains. But alone also means no voice to defend me. For the first time, her face softened. She looked at him with something fragile in her eyes. Until you. The soldier's chest tightened. He had seen battlefields, seen comrades die, seen cruelty in every corner of the galaxy. But here, in the quiet night, he saw something he had never expected. He saw the heart hidden beneath the name monster. And then, before he could speak, a sound broke the stillness. A faint cry. The soldier froze. She rose quickly, moving through the trees with speed. He followed, careful but curious. They reached a fallen tree where a small animal lay trapped, its leg crushed under the wood. It squealed in pain, trembling. The soldier reached for his weapon to end its suffering, but she raised her hand. No. She knelt, her claws gentle now, lifting the log with surprising strength. The creature whimpered, but did not flee. She touched its wound softly, and a glow spread from her palm. The soldier's eyes widened as the flesh mended, the pain faded, and the creature slowly stood. It blinked at her with wide eyes, then vanished into the forest. The soldier whispered, almost in awe, "You heal." She turned to him, her voice steady. This is what I was meant to do. To guard, to heal, to protect. But they never looked close enough to see. His heart pounded. Every story he had been told, every tale of blood and horror, was shattered by the truth standing before him. He stepped closer, his voice firm. Then I will look, I will see, and I will tell the world what I have seen. Her lips parted, her expression caught between disbelief and hope. For so long, she had carried the weight of lies. For so long, no one had dared to see her truth. Now, for the first time, someone did. And in the silence of the forest, under the endless stars, something unspoken passed between them. Something fragile but powerful. A bond, not of fear, not of chains, but of trust. It was only the beginning. The days that followed were unlike anything the soldier had ever known. He and the outcast, once called a monster, moved deeper into the forest, far from the whispers of the village. Life there was quiet, yet alive. The air smelled of earth and rain. The nights glittered with stars. And for the first time, he felt he was seeing her not as a shadow, but as a soul. She walked beside him, never behind, never ahead, always beside. At first, there was silence. She did not trust easily, and he did not press her. But little by little, the silence broke. One evening, by a small stream, he offered her bread from his rations. She hesitated, her claws curling, as if unused to such gestures. Slowly, she accepted. Their eyes met for a moment, brief, unspoken, yet powerful. Later, she showed him how she drank from the stream by cupping her hands, how her voice could call small creatures to her side. He laughed, not in fear, but in wonder. She blinked at him, as if the sound was strange. "You laugh with me." "Not at me," she said softly. "Why wouldn't I?" he replied. "You're not a curse. You are alive, just like me." Something flickered in her expression. She turned away quickly, but he caught the faintest trace of a smile. As nights passed, she shared fragments of her songs. Low, haunting melodies that echoed through the forest like forgotten prayers. He listened, entranced, though he could not understand the words. When she stopped, he asked, "What do they mean?" She answered quietly, "They are songs of my people. They speak of guardianship, of protecting those too weak to protect themselves." He nodded. "Then you're no monster. You're exactly what those songs say." Her eyes shone in the firelight, uncertain, as if his words struck something she had long buried. But their peace was fragile. One night, the crack of branches shattered it. The soldier tensed, hand on his blade. She growled low, her glowing eyes narrowing. In the distance, torches flickered. Voices carried through the trees. The soldiers had found their trail. "They will not stop," she whispered. "They will hunt until I am gone." The soldier looked at her, his jaw tight. "Then I will stand with you." She shook her head. "If you stay, they will call you traitor. They will chain you as they chain me." He did not flinch. "Then let them. I would rather be chained for truth than free with lies." For a long moment, she stared at him. Her people had been betrayed, her kind destroyed by fear. Yet here stood a human, willing to risk everything for her. Her voice broke softly. Why do you do this?" His answer was steady. "Because I know what it is to be misunderstood, to fight battles no one else sees. And because when I look at you, I see not a monster, I see someone worth saving." Her breath caught. The forest seemed to still around them, as if even the night was listening. The soldiers grew closer. Their shouts echoed, their armor clashed. She stood tall, ready to fight, her claws glowing faintly in the moonlight. But then his hand touched hers. "Wait," he whispered. "Don't fight. If you shed blood now, they will never believe." She trembled. Every instinct screamed at her to strike, to defend, to destroy. But his touch anchored her. His eyes held her in place. Slowly, she lowered her claws. Together, they slipped deeper into the shadows, vanishing before the soldiers arrived. They crouched in silence as armored men stormed past, their torches burning the night. Only when the danger passed did she finally speak. Her voice was barely more than a whisper. "You guide me when rage blinds me. You calm me when hate rises." "What?" He looked at her, his voice firm, his heart bare. "Because I believe in you, even when you cannot believe in yourself." For the first time, her eyes softened fully. The hardness melted, replaced by something fragile, something rare. Trust. In the days that followed, their bond grew deeper. He brought her stories of his childhood, his battles, his dreams. She listened quietly, sometimes asking questions, sometimes only watching him with unreadable eyes. In return, she taught him the meanings of her songs, the language of her people, the hidden beauty of the forest. He learned that her laughter was rare but radiant, and each time she smiled, it felt like the world itself grew brighter. But even as their bond strengthened, danger loomed. The council would not forgive her escape. The soldiers would not rest. And both of them knew that sooner or later, they would have to face the world again. The forest had become their refuge, a fragile world of quiet nights and whispered truths. But peace never lasts long when fear rules outside. For days, the soldier and the outcast lived hidden among the trees. She sang her people's songs, soft and haunting, while he listened as though he were hearing the heart of another world. He brought her fruit, water, and even laughter. She, in return, showed him secrets, how the stars could guide a path, how the forest itself listened when one walked with respect. But danger grew with each passing day. Patrols spread wider. Villagers whispered louder. The council had made their choice. The monster must be captured or killed, no matter the cost. One evening, as the sky bled with the colors of dusk, the soldier sat beside her near the stream. She traced patterns in the water with her claws, her expression distant. "Do you regret it?" she asked suddenly. He turned to her. "Regret what?" "Choosing me over your people, standing against them. If they find us, you will be branded a traitor forever." He shook his head firmly. "I do not regret a single moment. I see more truth with you than I ever did among them." Her eyes softened. She opened her mouth to answer, but before she could, the forest exploded with sound. Shouts, boots, steel. The soldiers had found them. The human leapt to his feet, sword drawn. She rose beside him, her glowing eyes blazing, her claws ready. Torches surrounded the clearing, men in armor shouting as they closed in. The captain himself stepped forward, his face twisted with triumph. "You cannot hide forever, beast. Tonight your curse ends." The soldier moved in front of her. "She is not what you think." The captain sneered. "Silence, traitor. You will die with her." The soldiers charged. For a moment, the air was chaos. Steel clashed, voices roared. She raised her claws, ready to fight, but then she saw the soldier, bleeding, struggling, yet refusing to step aside. His eyes met hers, pleading. "Don't kill them," he whispered, though the battle raged. "If you fight with blood, they will never believe your heart." Her claws trembled. The old rage, the centuries of pain, burned inside her. She could tear through them all. She could scatter the council's lies with a storm of fury. But his voice held her still. And then, chains. While she hesitated, iron wrapped around her wrists. Soldiers pulled with all their strength, dragging her down. She roared, the ground trembling beneath her, but more chains followed. She could have broken them, yet she saw the soldier's face, pale and weak, barely holding his own. If she fought, they would kill him first. So she stopped. The villagers, gathered at a distance, gasped as the so-called monster fell to her knees. Shackles bound her arms, her legs, her neck. Her glowing eyes dimmed, filled not with rage, but with sorrow. The captain raised his hand, and the soldiers seized the human too. His sword was torn from his grip. They struck him down, bound his hands. Blood streaked his face, but he did not cry out. His gaze never left hers. Dragged back to the village, the people filled the streets. They shouted curses through stones, spat in fear. Children clung to their mothers, eyes wide. The council stood high above the square, their voices cold. The beast has returned in chains. At last, justice. The monster knelt in the dirt, shackled, silent. The human fought against his captors. No, she is not a beast. She saved lives, she healed, she protected, but his words were drowned out by the crowd. She closed her eyes, the sound of their hatred crashing over her like waves. And yet, through the storm, she felt his presence. She opened her eyes again, and there he was, bloodied, broken, but still standing, still believing. The council's decree was final. At dawn, the monster shall be executed. The crowd cheered, but the sound was hollow, born of fear, not triumph. The human collapsed to his knees, despair tightening his chest. Yet even then, he whispered, his voice shaking but strong enough for her to hear. "I will not let this end. I swear it. They will see the truth." Her eyes glistened. For the first time, not from pain, not from anger, but from something she had almost forgotten existed. Faith. That night, in the silence of her cell, she sang a song of her people. Soft, broken, but filled with longing. The sound carried through the bars, drifting into the soldier's dark corner where he too was chained. And though the world called her a monster, he listened as if hearing the voice of an angel. Because to him, that was all she had ever been. The night before the execution was heavy with silence. The village slept uneasily, waiting for dawn. In the square, torches burned low, throwing long shadows across the ground where chains held her to the stone. Her head was bowed, her dark hair tangled, her eyes half-closed in weariness. Yet even in chains, there was a quiet dignity about her, something no iron could crush. In the corner of the prison yard, the young soldier sat bound, his wrists raw from rope. He could barely move, but his eyes never left her. Every time the wind shifted, he caught the faintest sound of her voice. She was singing again, low and sorrowful, a melody from another world. It was not the song of a monster. It was the song of a guardian. He closed his eyes, swearing silently, "I will not let her die like this." When dawn came, the village square filled. The council sat upon high chairs, cloaked in authority. The people crowded below, shouting and chanting. Fear drove their voices, but fear also blinded them. To them, she was still only a beast. The captain dragged her forward, chains clinking. She did not resist. Her glowing eyes dimmed, her shoulders heavy. The crowd spat and cursed, but she said nothing. She stood tall, silent, enduring. Then they brought the soldier. He stumbled, beaten and bloodied, but still alive. His voice was hoarse, his body weak, yet his spirit had not broken. The council raised their hands for silence. Their leader's voice boomed across the square. "This creature is no angel, no protector. She is a curse, a threat to our people. Today, justice will be done." The crowd roared in approval. But before the sentence could continue, the soldier pulled free from the guards and stepped forward. His chains rattled, but his voice rang out strong. "Stop!" The square froze. Hundreds of eyes turned to him. "You call her a monster," he shouted. "But I have seen her heart. I have seen her heal, not harm. I have seen her protect life, not destroy it." The council sneered. "Lies of a traitor. She bewitched you." "No." His voice cracked, but grew louder, fueled by truth. "You look at her claws, but not her hands. You see her eyes glowing, but not the pain behind them. You hear her songs as curses, but they are prayers." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Doubt stirred in the hearts of some. The soldier continued, every word like fire. "I followed her into the wild. I watched her save a creature with her own power. She could have killed, but she healed. She could have struck me down, but she spared me. You call that a monster? Then what does that make us?" The villagers shifted uneasily. Some lowered their torches. The council leader's face twisted with rage. "Enough! You betray your people for a beast." But the soldier stood tall, blood dripping from his wounds, chains heavy on his wrists. His voice cut through the square like a blade. "I do not betray my people. I betray their fear, because fear has blinded you. And if you kill her, you kill not a beast, but the last guardian who ever cared for this world." The words struck like thunder. Silence followed. The villagers stared at the chained woman differently now. Some remembered the stories, not of curses, but of protection long ago. Some whispered, could it be true? She lifted her head slowly, her glowing eyes meeting his. For the first time, in front of everyone, he had given her back her voice. Tears glistened at the edge of her eyes, but her expression remained strong. She had been silent for years, drowned by hatred, but now his voice carried her truth. The council shouted, calling for her execution at once, but their authority trembled. Doubt was dangerous, and doubt had been planted. That night, as she was dragged back to her cell, she turned to him. For once, she spoke not as the accused, not as the cursed, but as someone finding hope again. "You risked everything for me, even your life. Why?" His reply was quiet, almost broken, but filled with fire. "Because someone has to believe. And if the whole world won't, then I will." Her breath trembled. In the dim torchlight, she whispered back words she never thought she would say. "Then I will not give up, not while you still believe." Far away, storm clouds gathered. Trouble darker than the council's lies was coming for the village. And soon, everyone would see what she truly was. Not a monster, not a curse, but an angel waiting to rise. The dawn of her execution came heavy with clouds. The air was thick, as if the sky itself held its breath. Villagers gathered in the square once more, their voices restless, their eyes uncertain. Last night's speech from the young soldier had shaken them. Fear still clung to their hearts, but doubt now whispered through the crowd. The council, however, showed no doubt. Their leader stood tall, his cloak flowing, his voice sharp as a blade. Today the curse ends. The monster dies, and our people will be free. Chains rattled as they dragged her forward. Her glowing eyes dimmed, her body weakened, but she held herself tall. She would not bow, not even at the end. The young soldier was dragged beside her, beaten but unbroken. His gaze never left her. He whispered, his voice hoarse yet steady, "This is not your end. I swear it." She looked at him, a small flicker of hope crossing her face, fragile but real. And then the ground shook. A sound rolled across the sky, low and terrible. From beyond the hills, black shapes appeared, blotting out the rising sun. The villagers gasped in terror. It was not her kind. It was something else. Creatures of shadow, winged and vast, poured from the clouds. Their shrieks split the air, their talons flashing. An ancient enemy, forgotten by humans, but not by her. The council panicked. Defend the walls. To arms. Chaos erupted. The creatures swooped low, smashing stone, scattering people. Soldiers fought, but their blades did little. The village trembled on the edge of ruin. And in the midst of the chaos, chains still bound her. The soldier shouted, struggling against his captors, "Release her. She can fight them. She is not our enemy." But the council screamed back, "Never. She dies first." One creature descended, its jaws open, talons stretched toward the crowd. The villagers screamed. And then it happened. The chains snapped, not from brute force, but from her power, an ancient strength surging through her veins. She rose, glowing brighter than the torches, brighter than the sun breaking through the clouds. Her hair flowed like dark fire. Her eyes shone like silver stars. The villagers fell silent. For the first time, they saw not a monster. They saw a guardian. She leapt into the sky, meeting the creature mid-flight. Her claws struck, not with rage, but with righteous fury. Light exploded from her hands, tearing the beast apart. It shrieked and fell in flames. The crowd gasped, awe and fear mixing into something new, wonder. One after another, the creatures fell upon the village, but she stood against them all. She shielded the weak, pulled children from rubble, healed the wounded even as she fought. Her voice rose in song, not of sorrow this time, but of power. Ancient words echoed across the battlefield, weaving strength into the air. The soldier, still bound, shouted to the crowd, "Look at her. She saves you, even after all your hate. Tell me now, does a monster do this?" The people watched with wide eyes. A woman once cursed and spat upon now shone like a beacon, risking her life for theirs. Slowly the truth spread. Fear began to break. Some dropped their weapons, ashamed. Others knelt, whispering prayers. Even the council, pale and trembling, could not deny what their eyes saw. At last, the sky cleared. The creatures were gone, their shadows burned away. The square was broken, the walls scarred, but the village still stood because of her. She landed softly on the stone, her chest heaving, her chains lying shattered at her feet. Silence filled the square, broken only by the crackle of fire. The soldier, finally freed, stumbled toward her. His body was weak, but his smile was steady. "I told you," he whispered. "You are no monster." Her glowing eyes softened. For a moment, her claws trembled, and then she lowered them gently, as if letting go of centuries of pain. The villagers watched, not with hate, but with awe. Where they once saw a beast, they now saw an angel. The council, their power crumbling, said nothing. The truth was undeniable. She was not their curse. She was their salvation. And as the dawn broke fully, lights spilling across the square, the soldier reached for her hand. She hesitated only a second before taking it. For the first time in her long life, she stood not alone, not in chains, but as she truly was. Guardian, angel, believed in. And beside her stood the human who had seen her heart when no one else dared. Together, they faced the new day. The monster was gone. Only the angel remained.